right, we're live. Welcome everybody to another amazing fireside chat. I've had some amazing sessions over the last hour and a half, but this one I am super excited about. It's probably one of the most anticipated conversations we're going to be having, and I would love to start and introduce with our amazing guests. First of all, welcome Chidi, who is a chief medical illustrator, a medical student, and who's taken the world by storm. Chidi, welcome to the platform.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
We're also joined by another special guest. I call her Auntie Mary, but I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say that now. Mary, welcome to the stage. Mary, of course, is the founder and president of Zenith Global Health at Zenith, and of course, Zenith Global Awards. Welcome, Mary.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here, and great job with everything you're doing. Nice to connect with you on a personal level, Chidi. Great job.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Oh, we're going to kick this off. It's going to be an exciting talk because this talk is scheduled for 1 hour. There's a lot to uncover. We're going to start with Sarah sharing your journey, and then, of course, we're going to be talking also about how you did what you did, so that all young people from around the world and those not so young can also see how you went about doing what you did. I just want to, of course, start with this particular image here. There we go. Now, this image here is what started it all. The picture of the black fetus. Chidi, tell us about you and tell us how this storm came into being.
All right. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm Chidiebere Ibe, and I'm a Nigerian medical illustrator. I did a first degree in chemistry here in Nigeria, and I have a lot of portfolios I wouldn't want to mention right now. But so quickly, I'm just going to talk about how I started and how the storm came and how the storm threw me off balance. Yeah, because it's quite an amazing journey. Now, I've been 1 year as a medical illustrator. So I started illustration last year, July 2020, during the lockdown. And that was as a result of mentorship and guidance from my mentor, who is a medical doctor in the US. So he saw my artworks and said, so why not go into medical illustrations? I mean, you're artistic and you have passion for medicine also, so you could combine both and do amazing things. I mean, I had never heard of that before in my entire life. What were medical illustrations? I had never heard about that. And before then, and before I reached out to him, that was during the lockdown. And I think that's because the reason why I reached out to him was because I needed money, and it was a lockdown. Of course, the economy wasn't going forward. We're not having money and all of that. So I told him that I wanted him to pay me to do designs for him because I'm also a graphic designer. And he said that there was no money to pay me. And I said, okay, let me volunteer. And so at the point of volunteering, so that's where everything happened. And it's amazing to know that I started. And when I started, I wasn't a medical student. So I had no knowledge of anatomy. I had no knowledge of medicine. So everything was just, it was just a struggle for me. But I took up the challenge to learning. So when I started with a very old computer mouse, and the computer mouse was actually borrowed. And I had a computer and a computer mouse and a computer. So when I started, I of course, for those who know Nigeria, we have issue with power supply. Okay, so we could stay like a month. You don't have power supply, but and from where I lived to my church was about an hour distance. So I would pay transport to my church for 1 good year, where I could see power supply to learn medical illustrations. And amazing to know that there were no tutorials online. So there were no tutorials online. So everything I learned was what I taught myself. So I would go to church, from my house to my church every year for 1 good year, where I could get power supply and teach myself with a computer mouse. But in the process of learning, I realized something, that the more I use something very small to learn, the more I challenge my mind to thinking bigger. Because I realized that I had limited resources to learn. I had limited resources to grow. But I use that to conform my thinking because I wouldn't challenge myself with other professionals who have been in the field for like 30 years or 15 years because I'm just in the field for 1 good year. And I had very limited resources. But one thing I had was the power to think creatively and the power to think out of the box. So what I did was that when I go to the internet to see other medical illustrations, I would see amazing detailed illustrations. And of course, I wouldn't compare those drawings because I mean I had just limited tools, and those that created this illustration had sophisticated tools to creating this. But I didn't allow that limit me. So what I did was that I had to question the fact. So if these guys that did these drawings did this with amazing gadgets, with high resolution computers, with with amazing tools, how can I create this with a computer mouse? So that was what I had to question myself. So actively, I had to actively think, I had to actively create drawings in my mind. So for example, if I'm walking on the road, if I'm doing an activity that is not drawing, I'm thinking, oh, how can I do this that I saw on the internet with a computer mouse? So, so those thoughts kept on creating imageries in me. So whenever I decide to so whenever I decide to draw now, then and the drawing that I had thought about will become quite easy because I had actively thought about them in my thinking process. So that was how I started. So for a year, and I mean, a day did not pass without making an illustration. And of course, not all drawings I had done did I post public because some of them, like I wasn't proud of them because I would make comparisons to others who had been in the field for a long time. And so I created those drawings in a day. And if a day passed and I didn't make drawings, I felt bad. I felt bad. I felt that I am actually lagging behind. That I mean, I think I was actually too hard on myself, but that was what was the journey. So that's how I started. And until when I created the drawing that went viral, yes, uh, the day before I created the drawing that went viral, I had a quite disturbance in my spirit person, and so I was actually denied a visa to school. I was supposed to go to Ukraine by September, by November rather. So, but I was denied a visa to go to school. So, in the midst of the turmoil, in the midst of thinking, how can I get out of this? Because I had spent a whole lot of money for visa, and I was depressed. I was worried. So, in that down state of my life, I created a drawing. And to be honest with you, I didn't expect that drawing would go viral because I had created a whole lot of complex drawings also. I had created a whole lot of amazing drawings, not that alone. But it's amazing to know that when I created that drawing, I actually said that, I mean, on my social media handle, all I said was that I am black and black is beautiful and that more of these should be encouraged in medical literature. And I posted that and I advocated for what I believed in. And the storm came very heavy and threw me off balance because I didn't expect that. But I had to move with the wave and I had to make wise opportunity of that moment. Yeah.
So,
That's
Chidi,
it.
to summarize that, and I want to come to Mary now, is you started these illustrations and you're doing some design work that you decided to pick up. You applied to do medicine. Your visa got rejected, and then you posted this illustration of this black fetus, and all of a sudden it was picked up by CNN, CBS. It was picked up by the Huffington Post, and literally went viral all over the internet. You started a GoFundMe campaign, and I think you raised just over £28,000 when your target was 15, and that pretty much paid for your tuition fees. Is that correct? Right. And
Yes.
of course, you've now gone a step further, and we'll come up to that in what you've done next. Mary, this is a remarkable story. This is a young lad based in Nigeria who no one had potentially known before, at least not to the scale he's known now. And I can tell you, Chidi, a lot of people know you all around the world. Um, first of all, why has it taken so long to people even think about this? Like Chidi's done it now, but why not have the whole conversation of a black fetus, or have that representation? You've been in the healthcare industry, you're a titan in your space. Why do you think this has happened now and not before? Mary, you need to unmute. You're muted right now. So if you unmute your mic. So whilst you're unmuting, there we go.
Was that question for me or for Chidi?
Yes. No, that's for you, Mary. That's for you.
Okay.
Why, with everything he's achieved in such a short space of time, I want you to touch upon you being who you are in the healthcare world. Why is it taking so long for this representation to get out there in the first place?
Okay. Thank you very much. And I'm really happy we're having this conversation because one of your posts, I think on LinkedIn with this, a very good friend of mine who's a obs and gynecologist made a comment that even had loads of comments underneath, Gloria. And I'm really happy that she was able to be involved in that conversation because one of the reasons why probably it took this long is the fact that A, being at the right places at the right time, and B, positioning your intentions to convey the right message, to bring out the resilience that is behind your success, and also to create sustenance. And for me and people like Gloria, what we will want for you is sustenance. And the fact that this message is been going on in different dimensions for a while, okay? But it's like you've now brought this to the forefront and it requires sustenance. And so the resources is another reason what seems to, hone in on your question. Sometimes the resources are not available. Sometimes resources are available, but it's difficult to access it or find it or make it available, which I believe is one of the things your platform Wasim is doing for up and coming both entrepreneurs, students, learners, and we need more of this. Again, another thing is what you're doing now. From this point, you need to look into mentoring up and coming youth as well. Okay, that's the roadmap to sustenance. I'll stop here for now and let us carry on, if that's okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, that's perfect, Mary. Chidi, you heard that. So there's a lot of young people on this LinkedIn Live. What you talked about is you had a very finite amount of resources, right? Yet you went and did what you did. And secondly, you did it through a period where you weren't even sure if you're going to end up doing your medical degree because of the situation you had a visa. Now, once that happened, where you got that recognition, everything you're experiencing now, I want to know, if you're looking at all these young people, what would you say to them about building their personal and professional profiles? Because obviously for you, it's changed your whole world. How important today, because Mary said it's a lack of resources. And one of the issues there is, not everybody may have access to privilege or access to the right people or the right finances or the right opportunities. But you've created your own. You created your own story, and we all pray that going forward it's going to continue. What advice would you give to all these young people who are listening, who may be from similar predicaments where they don't have the resources, but you went and made it? What would you tell them?
All right, thank you for that. So I'm going to say the first profile you should think of building is your personality, because you see, your personality is your first image and is what people see first. So I mean, because if I say build your LinkedIn profile, people could fake that out, but it cannot fake the personality. So the first thing you do is to build your personal brand, to brand yourself. And how do you brand yourself? When you have a picture in mind, when you know where you're going to. For example, here in Nigeria, I tried medical school for 5 good times, but I did not give up because I knew that this is what I wanted to do with my life. And over the years, I believe that the failure or the moment of not getting to medical school helped in building me into the person I become right now. Because by the time you fail, you learn from them. And when you learn from them, it's built your personal profile. Because and the body of knowledge I've acquired over these years is as a result of the things I've gone through, as a result of the failures I've gone through, as a result of difficult moments in my life I've gone through. And I sat down to question myself, what can I learn from this time, from this moment in my life? Now, for those who are coming from difficult background like I came from, I did not use that as an excuse for not working hard. Now, for you to build a personal profile for yourself, first of all, you need to understand, where am I coming from? You need to understand your background. You need to understand where you're going to. Because a lot of persons misuse opportunities. A lot of persons do not understand where they're coming from. Because if you know where you're coming from, because if you know where you're coming from, you would be able to profile yourself, you're able to walk in tangent to getting to where you want to go to. And also, I won't fail to mention the concept of mentorship. I know you talked about that people may not have access to mentors, access to quality advice, but you know, at some point in life, information is everywhere. Information is everywhere. I mean, now we have access to the internet, we have access to information out there, and the problem is this: people do not make use of proper information. I mean, because I know personally, for me, I'm someone that always sought for knowledge over a long time. Like I always love consuming information. I've always loved improving my personal self. And from when I started thinking for myself, one thing I knew was that I'm always thinking, how can I be a better person than today? I mean, because people had okay, for example, for those who go into health sector, people would always ask me, how would you make money being a medical doctor? And I tell them, I don't know. I don't know, because my goal is not to make money as a medical doctor, but my goal is to create an impact. And as a result of creating impact, the resources will come. Because that has been my mindset, creating value and creating an impact. And because I had decided to create that impact, I then decided, oh, for those who create impact, how do they develop themselves? How do they build themselves? Because as I earlier said, the greatest value you would give to the world is to building yourself. Because when you build yourself, you would have what to give to people. And from there, when you develop yourself and when you know what you want and what you do not want, that will curtail excesses in your life. Because sometimes people take things that they do not want, and those are a lot of baggage in their life, and at the end, they do not tend to achieve the goals that they want for themselves. So this has been the long journey in my life. And for those out there who want to build profile for themselves, who want to build outstanding remark for themselves, I would say focus on the inward. Now, your goal should not be making a name in quote, but your goal should be being a better person of yourself. So when that's your goal, when that's your earnest goal, you would see that the result will be a global recognition first, and that the result will be people would come to learn and to understand what has been your secret. So to me and to my perspective, that's just what I would say, how to build a personal profile for yourself and taking it out there.
I agree. Build yourself is one thing, but also make sure that you're giving impact. Mary, then I'm going to come back to you. You obviously are a founder of Zenith Global Health. You also celebrate through the awards. If I look at all these international conferences, you look at TED, you look at Davos, you look at all these things, and we're talking about, changing the world for young people like Chidi. But where are the young people in those talks? Where do you think, or what do you think needs to change for people who are celebrating and when we're talking about awards, how can those platforms better accommodate voices like Chidi?
Yeah, thank you. So what we do, our Rising Star category is the only category where we have multiple winners. And the purpose of that is so that we'll give every aspect of nursing, medicine, allied health, the opportunity to shine. So sometimes we may have 5, 6 rising stars in that category, because we look at these people who have built resilience, excellence, consistency into what they do across board. It may be advancing health with media, it may be medicine, it may be nursing, it may be mental health and things like that. So that when they come together, it's not just about handing them this plaque, because there's a process. So the judges will look at their presentation and what they've done. They go to every length to make sure that they merit it. Now, when they come to us, when they come to that point now, we match them with people within the organization, from my advisory board to people we are giving recognition and lifetime to, and say, look, this person is our rising star in this area. So we create mentorship. Sometimes we fund training. Like when we did our very first Zenith in Africa, the summit, our rising star, one of the, apart from the plaque, they got 1 year mentoring from the Institute of Health and Quality in Europe. So something like that we create for them, so that as they grow, they have somebody to hold their hands and say, look, do it this way, do it that way, and signpost them in other areas. So it's like an encouragement, it's like support, it's that to help them navigate, because it's not always easy, as you know, we all know. For instance, now Chidi has created this amazing thing that he's doing. So what happens in 1 year? Actually, what happens in 6 months, right? So that kind of things, like a roadmap, is put in place for them, so that, you know, there's guidance for them as they grow, and collaboration as well.
Agreed. And I'm going to now focus on the next segment, which is Chidi. Let's talk about the education component. In fact, I want to pull this comment up by Roland. Isn't modern education a problem? Too much learning of facts rather than learning how to think and use them. And I'm just going to play a clip from a LinkedIn Live we did with Sarah Katusia, who is the managing director for Group M Central Africa, SSA. I'm going to play this clip, and then I'm going to follow up a question for you, Chidi, on education itself. So I'm just going to play this now.
I'm like to do marketing. When I walk to advertising, I'm just like, what is this place? Like, it's so different, and the things I learned, the things I am supposed to be doing at work. And I think that is the critical piece, where how do we work with, you know, universities, public sector, to shift what our curriculums look like, to get people out of the university who are either ready to start their businesses or ready to work.
Now, the context of that was Group M had started GradX programs where they were teaching people in Africa and young people in Africa to be prepared for marketing and media work. You know, growing up, no one tells us that. No one tells us that, hey, you know, make sure you, like, we hear the words, you must have a vision, but no one tells us how to articulate it, how to present yourself in media. And the education system, as Roland said, we've got a lot of facts and figures, but how important do you think is representation, not just for those who have access to it, but also ethnic minorities and communities that generally wouldn't have used media as much as before? How important do you think now for young people, Chidi, is it that they have a media presence and therefore build their own narrative?
All right. So I'll start by saying that the school system now is full of a whole lot of facts. Let me start by saying that, because from now and then, we are all passed with the same information over and over again, and students just accumulate this and just know this. Most of them just to pass the examination, and nobody's challenged to think outside the box to create something very different. Now the media is one of the greatest tools ever given to mankind, and also one of the demeaning tool ever given to mankind, because if you make wrong use of it, it will deter your name, and if you make wise use of it, you will have a glory. So it depends on the perspective or the area which you decide to use the media. And now I would say that I'm a product of one who has used media effectively. because I know that that's where people are. That's the community. That's where people want to be heard, or people want to hear and say, or hear what's happening. And if one makes wise use of the media, the outcome will be positive. Now, for those who do not have, because I know that for here in Nigeria, mostly our curriculum is actually passed down from what was used in 1994 is what's still using mostly right now, because nobody cares to review this curriculum, nobody cares to update it, and of course students just learn that just to pass examination. But there are a whole lot of information out there that students could harness to become better students. And you agree with me that students who have made impact, or young people who have made impact in the society, are people who have gone out from the norm, from what they've been taught already, to thinking out from what, or to using wise information on the media out there. Now it's amazing to also know that for the change to begin, or for one to make a bigger change, the media is where you could get information to making a change. For me personally, as I earlier said, I actually did a first degree in chemistry in Nigeria. It's amazing to know that the information that we had consumed in school was something that our teachers were taught 50 years ago, or like 40 years ago, and they were using that to teach us again. But what amazed me most was that personally, I'm someone that I actually teach. I love teaching myself more than what I would learn in classes. So most times when I'm in classes, I don't tend to understand what teacher is learning or teacher is teaching rather. So when I go back home, I do my personal research, my personal study, and that's all from the media. So the media has so much to offer if only we can make wise use, a wise judgment from that.
And there's another point I want to add to that, and you're a student, you're in a school, college, university, you've been given a presentation, and then you go home and you turn on YouTube to figure out what is it that you were actually supposed to be learning. And then when you do that, you'll probably speak to friends and whatever to further clarify. Or you'll be tapping into a $226 billion private tuition industry. So not only do you go and pay in the UK, we're lucky we don't have to, but places around the world where you may be getting paying for your schooling, then you hire a private tutor on top, potentially to explain what you learned at school. This industry is worth $226 billion. One of the issues I see in why not have more access to other ways of learning is the fact that the credentialing part makes an impact. For example, if Chidi was to learn all his course from webinars and workshops affiliated to the institution, yet he still become successful, what's stopping anybody else doing it? And I think the issue there comes credentialing. So Mary, do you think we need to relook at how we credential our courses? And also, should it be only regulated by certain institutions when people like Chidi have just gone and done what he's done in a matter of 3 weeks by himself? It's a loaded question. We'll wait for Mary to unmute. But, I want all of you to think about that. Like, why not have alternative means of learning? And as I said, Chidi, you've probably done a lot more in 3 weeks than people potentially might do in a whole year's worth of working every day. Mary, did you want to unmute? There we go.
Yes, sorry, I didn't get the question there. It's a bit faint.
So the question was, as Chidi has said, and we talked about education, you go to your class and then you come out your class and you end up watching YouTube to learn what you should have been learning. So my point is, do you think the fact that credentialing or credentials, the fact that you get a certificate from a degree or a course, is the barrier in really democratizing the way we can learn? For example, Chidi today could teach a whole generation of kids what he did. What's stopping him from doing that? other than the fact that if he starts teaching and coaching and mentoring, does he need a certificate to say or backed by institution? Yet it wasn't an institution that allowed him to do what he did in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, you're right. So there has to be an overhaul in education across Africa and globally. And the good thing is, in some areas, that is being realized, with the introduction of OSCE and the introduction of even apprenticeship. If you look at it, they are building people from that. And if you like, you can go on to have your BSc, MSc, PhD, or whatever. But your background will be not only imbibing the information, but doing and excelling in doing, in interpreting what you've had, what you've learned. And that translates into, so if you have a certificate at the end of that, for instance, is from learning and doing, rather than, like you said, sitting in a curriculum that says if you score 90 over 100 in this one, then you're good to go. Now, just before the pandemic, I was helping the medical university in Zambia to overhaul their education system. And what we did was what we called blended learning. So we had the e-learning platform, and then they had the skills and simulation, which I helped the country build about 7 out of the 10 provinces before the pandemic. So what that means is that when they are not in the main city studying for either medicine or medical licenses or whatever, when they are in the provinces, they still have access to the learning, and they have access to skills and simulation as well. So they are learning, they're doing, and they have competency signed off for that. So it's not just about somebody sitting in front of them and saying, do this way, do it that way. And I believe that with time, as we embrace the blended learning, somebody who's doing things like Chidi is doing can say, okay, I've created this module, and this is how it works. And if you go through this module and you do it this way, you can, and I bring myself back to what I said earlier about mentoring. It doesn't have to be you sitting in front of them and saying this and that. It's about having a structure. And before you know it, with what you're doing, which some other people are doing something similar as well, will form a critical mass of changing the face of education, of changing, the way certificates are interpreted into. For instance, as a specialist practitioner in minimally invasive surgery, I learned on the robot, I learned on doing and things like that. And now with, supervision of a consultant, I can do some of the things that the surgical registrars are doing. And, so things like that we need to incorporate. And that's part of our aims at Zenith Global Health, to bring this innovation into learning in healthcare and also in management. Because if you're able to change the mindset of the people at the helm of this, then you begin to cascade it, and then you begin to make a difference. I must say that that experience with the blended learning is one of the best experiences of my life, and it's turned me into an evangelist of, innovating both medical education and education in general.
I agree. And Michael, I just want to bring this point up that you mentioned. I absolutely agree. You still need to hold it. And that's the thing about credentialing. How do you hold people accountable and make sure that whatever they're learning is tested? So this brings me to the next. We look at public ledgers potentially like blockchain, where I think education certification has a big role, and that's something definitely worth discovering and learning about. But Chidi, I want to now come to a point that everybody's asking. Have you launched your own NFT?
Say that again, Wasim.
And I'm asking Chidi.
Chidi,
now
okay.
Now that you've done this illustration, did you launch your NFT?
Okay.
Yeah, so my work is on the NFT. Yes, so but I haven't made it public yet. So by this evening, I'll make it public, and the auction can go from there. It's on NFT already.
So let's tell people the journey, right? So if you're looking at, but this is especially for all you young kids on there watching this, and thank you because you're from everywhere around the world, as those who may not be young kids, right? But let's talk about that. So you got this big marketing hype around your illustration, which was fantastic because it was meaningful. Then you ended up raising GoFundMe money, which can technically pay for your education. Now you've gone one step further and thought, right, okay. And because these are the equalizers, I think, for people to realize on what they can do and how they should be thinking. What, first of all, made you think about making an NFT? Secondly, how did you go about doing it?
All right. So what made me go into the NFC was that, first of all, the world is going digital. Okay, we are going to digital space, and it's encouraged that every young person should find a need to go into the digital space. And of course, I have someone managing that for me. I mean, I'm so overwhelmed with a lot of emails that I don't have time to do that, but I have someone who's doing that for me. And also, the reason why I did that in NFT was because I intend starting an initiative to train Black people, to train African people, and to mentor them in the area that I've gained mastery in. And of course, that would need resources, that would need funds to do that, because if you're training people, you need to empower them, because that's the end result of training people. So I want to be able to generate those funds through the NFT and start the initiative and able to give back to people, because I mean, the love has been so overwhelming, and the only way to do that is to raise the funds through the NFT and be able to give back and start an initiative and give back to people. So that's the reason why I took that NFT.
Amazing. And now that you've gone there, as you said, this is a means for kids and people all around the world, right, to learn this. Doesn't matter where you are. It's an opportunity for you to create opportunities for yourself. That's what you're doing. You're giving yourself the ability to go out there and have a means of making an income, one, yes, but secondly, also building a global community around the work you do. So going forward, how important is, and Mary touched upon it in terms of collaboration, peer-to-peer supported learning? How important is that, Chidi, going forward in everything that you'll be doing?
Yes, so I think that's pretty one of the most important things that we should not forget about, because as a young person, I get more inspiration, I get more energy to work harder from a fellow young person, because it's easy to be motivated when I see my friends doing great. It's easy to put more energy to work when I see people of my age doing impact out there. So peer-to-peer is an amazing thing that everybody to take leverage on, and that's if goes down to the people that you surround yourself with. Because if you want to make an impact, of course, the peer you are with should be able to influence you to making that impact. And that still also goes down to finding the right people around you. I know sometimes it's difficult because our environment may not support that. The people we see ourselves may not support that. But most times in as much as there are negative energies around us, there are always positive energies around us. So just for us to look at the right places, to find the right resources, to find the right people that will motivate us. Because, I mean, popularly say that motivation is like taking your breath. It doesn't last. Yes, it doesn't last. But when you're around people who are always there to encourage you, I tell you it's going to last, because they're always there to push you forward. And as I said, I'm a product of good mentorship. My mentor, Dr. Ulrich Sydney, has always been there to push and to support me. Because I remember when I started, to be honest with you all, I didn't know how to make proper email communication. I didn't know how to write good emails. And as important as that, I had learned that through him. I didn't know how to respond to comments. I didn't know how to engage my audience in the comments or in my social media handles. And I know sometimes people think that those are minor things, but those are little things that make a lot. Those are little things that build us to becoming who we are today. So we should not undermine the fact of having a peer-to-peer relationship, and that is and that is building the right connection at the right time and at the right moment.
Well, you definitely articulated that really well. That was so eloquent. Well done, Mary. You heard what Chidi said, and of course, you yourself are a global networker. How important do you think is now for starting at a young age for kids to learn how to build their peer-to-peer supporting communities? And secondly, how early do you think the schooling system should be implementing ways for kids to learn how to articulate their vision using social media, or media, or any form or any medium?
Yeah, I believe it should be as early as possible, actually. And you know what they say about hindsight being 2020. My youngest, when he was in nursery, is in his 20s now. Came on one day and they said, "Oh, we should get them to school at 7 a.m. instead of 8 tomorrow, because they are having a conversation with their colleagues in Europe." So that was some 18 years ago. And like Chidi said, at that time, I didn't even know about Skype or Zoom or whatever. But that was happening in his nursery. So I didn't pay attention. Now, fast forward when he turned, I think, 8 or so, he was still in primary school anyway. I started my work as a nurse consultant. And all through university, we were using our slide, you know. So we weren't using PowerPoint. And I needed to prepare. So this boy watched me and he goes, "Mommy, you are going to, be addressing this crowd. You cannot use that, that plasticky thing that we used to put on our."
Laminates, yeah.
"Yeah, you did PowerPoint." And I said, "PowerPoint?" Anyway, so he was showing me. In the end, he took the laptop from me and he was doing it. And I said, "No, you're not going to sit here forever. Show me." Okay. It was then that the penny dropped, that this skill that this boy was accumulating when he was that age is now coming handy for me. So it's important from the beginning to not only teach learning, cramming stuff, but to identify the gifts, the talents of our youth and help them to develop that alongside formal education. And also for us to find a way, somebody mentioned that in the comments, of regulating informal education as well. So that at the end of the day, it wouldn't be like everybody will say, "I can do this," and then it turns out that some people cannot do it. Then they mess it up for those who can do it, because the people who can support have had bad experiences from "I can do it." So there's a lot of work to do. And so when we begin to support our youth from that young age, A, they build confidence. B, they build resilience. C, they know where to look. As everybody has been saying now, they know where to look for relevant information. I always say to people when I go to train and mentor, either for personally or for Zenith Global Health, I say, "I don't mind you adding me to your group, but please don't add me to groups where you post things that you pick randomly. Add me to groups where you want to have credible discussions, where you want to take things forward, and where you want to see impact." And that, I mean, there's no age limit to start that. And once we've got them to when they are youths, again, you know that in life journey, there'll be distractions, there'll be ups and downs, fall and rise. We need to be there to support them, to, catch them if they do fall, like we've all done in life journey, and also to, make things available for them, not what they want to hear, but the truth. Let them know it's not going to be easy or straightforward, but they can do it. It's achievable. If the next person to you can do it, you too can do it. Self-belief is very important. And so is focus and consistency.
Well said.
Because I always say that our youth is our future, and what we invest in them will determine what our future will be.
Very true. Larab has got a question for you, Chidi. We know one of your great mentors, you mentioned Dr. Sydney. Who else do you get inspiration from?
Well, I'm a Christian, so I get inspiration from God, of course.
And you go to Bible study every Sunday. I think you
Sure,
mentioned
of
that pretty
course.
much. And your
Yeah.
faith. How does your faith uh, inspire you and help you get through the difficult times?
Yes. So it's amazing to know that, as I said, I'm a Christian and I love God. And so when I mean, I've gone through series of difficult moments in my life, difficult, and I can't talk about it right now. But one of them was when I was and when I got admitted in the Ukraine to go to school, and so I got denied of visa. And it's amazing that I spent all the money I had to do visa and I was denied the visa. I mean, I had no school fee already. So I wasn't sure I was going to get school fee, but all I knew I needed a visa, but I was denied the visa. So at the point of that moment, I had to pray because I'm a Christian. I prayed about it. And it's amazing to know that I took that faith. I'm that leap of faith I took because, as I said, I had no school fee and I spent all I had on visa. So, what was the hope that I was going to get school fee to go to school? But it's amazing to know that as I'm speaking to you right now, I had raised my school fee enough of it, and that's what my faith does for me because I believe that but I was going to raise my school fees. And funny enough, and when I made that drawing and posted it on social media, I had to put up my GoFundMe link. And honestly speaking, I had posted that GoFundMe link for about 4 months before then. I had no money. People were not donating to my GoFundMe, so it was depressing that I was losing hope. I was how am I going to raise school fee? And it's amazing that in just a space of 1 week, and I'd raised enough for my school fee. That's what my faith does for me, and that's how my faith kept me going because I know that amid the storm, amid the difficulty, there was also going to be a way out of this.
And I guess the other point is your faith and your persistence and your consistency and not giving up. What's ended up happening is now you've got a global community of supporters around, right?
Yeah, that's
All
right.
really passionate about helping you. And of course, you told me, Wasim, actually, um, the money you raised has not only covered your fee, but it's also going to help you for something you want to start next, a new initiative of supporting others. Tell us about that.
Right. So I had highlighted that in the reason why I put my work on the NFT. As I said, the initiative is to empower young people and to mentor young people because, I mean, feels like medical illustrations or feels like what I do is not common in Nigeria. I mean, I'm not sure if there is anybody in Nigeria that does what I do. I don't know if they are. And of course, that's a career. That's a career Nigerians or Africans could carve for themselves because not everybody would want to be a medical doctor, and some people want to find a career in medical illustrations. And because the resources are not there for them to be trained, as I said, I'm a self-taught illustrator. I had no resources for me to leverage on. So I want to be able to create that resources by making probably YouTube tutorials for people, giving people access to gadgets that could help them learn and grow. And by that, they could find a career for themselves, find a job for themselves, find an income for themselves. And that's also, to me, a way of empowering Africa because I'm from Africa. And if all being said and done, I'm not empowering my continent or my country, I feel I'm not doing well. So that's what I want to do, part of the initiative, and part of the resources I've gotten from my GoFundMe, and part of the money I'll get from the NFT to start up the initiative. And I hope, well, with the support out there, I'll be able to start that off.
Amazing, and I think you will. I think now that you've done what you've done and your NFT is out there, I think you'll get a lot of support. And I'm glad you're going to carry on by supporting others in teaching them on how to utilize their skills and not only monetize but make a career path for themselves. Mary, I want to come to you then. We're in that final segment, last 10 minutes. Um, for the private sector in Africa, the state or the government sectors in Africa, and NGOs, We know Africa, everybody says, is a sleeping giant and it's time for it to awake, but the potential is already there. People like Chidi are out there. What do you think needs to happen to cultivate and foster an environment where kids like Chidi can really shine and not have to go through some of the hardships Chidi had to go through?
Yeah, thanks for that. One of the things we advocate and that we see happening and that we want to reinforce is the private-public partnership. This is very important because right now there's a divide. There's a divide in the sense that every parent, and I don't blame them, wants their children to go to a private institution for whatever reasons, which most of the time are valid reasons. But we need to be able to marry both. What's lacking in our public schools, both from nursery to secondary to tertiary and to university, what's lacking? How can we do that as a people? How can we engage government to actually respond to what is lacking? Because not everybody will be able to go to private institutions. So we need to make that available, get our government talking. And the reassuring thing is that we just need to start somewhere. We just need to look. And we've been fortunate as any Global Health because, we are based in the UK. So we have opportunities for benchmarking. So we are able to source which area in either in private in Africa or in government, in public, where we can say, okay, you are doing great already. Why don't you champion this? And, this is what is being done here. And they take that on board. And then, it's like a drop in the ocean, but we may not be able to save the world, but we can cause a ripple. And from that ripple, the effect we begin to, expand. But we need to start somewhere. In our last ceremony, which was last month, the submission from UAE, from Sheikh Khalifa Medical City, their nursing program, when we saw that, we actually realized that this could be used in the UK as well. So that is being looked into and being embraced as well. Then we move that to Africa and we say, you know what, this could be used as well because it's portable. So the more portable things we, embed in the system through, like I said, from the beginning to tertiary, the better results we have. But that cannot happen by government alone. There has to be a partnership. Everybody has to be on the same table, speaking the same language and with the same vision, the same mission, so that when the resources come together, they are appropriately utilized.
Absolutely. I think if you want to go far, you want to go wide, and you want to go far, you need the government sectors, you need the communities, and you need the private sector. Chidi, with this approaching the last few minutes, then what help do you need for your initiative to serve young people in Africa?
Sorry, I lost you. What did you say?
What help do you need for your initiative that you'd like to now start to help young people in Africa and also others around the world who could learn from you?
All right. So as Dr. Myriad earlier said, partnership is everything. Collaboration is everything. So as an individual, I can't create the impact alone. So, but working with a whole lot of persons who have similar visions of impacting the system. So I would want to collaborate with a lot of persons, and from collaborations, we are able to generate funds that are able to empower these people. So I'm looking out there for partnership and collaboration with big guys already in the industry. So once we collaborate, we are able to work towards addressing it. So I don't need collaborations right now.
Amazing. And this is one of the ways you do that is now you've connected with Mary. Mary is super well connected, and I'm sure will be happy to help where she can. And of course, all the people that you saw commenting and got involved, I think that was extremely powerful. And this is the advantage of doing what you do. So I want to summarize this. We touched upon your journey. We touched upon how in a space of a number of weeks. Were you able to get global traction with international media, from raising funds all the way to producing an NFT? And that's a whole nother conversation. But I wanted to put out there that Chidi's NFT will be going live tonight. So it would be great for people to follow and show support there. The second thing, of course, we looked at the education system and how that needs to adapt, and how we need to make sure that this idea of peer-to-peer supported learning gets not only more traction, but it becomes a way of being credentialed so that it is recognized. There's no reason why someone like Chidi can't do a masterclass today. You know why? Because he's actually gone and done it. He's lived it. He's gone and done the thing he's talking about. So as compared to watching a webinar on teaching somebody, why not learn from someone who's actually experienced and gone and done it? So I'm going to leave the floor to you two for your last words. Mary, I'm going to come to you first. Any piece of advice that you think would really benefit this next generation? Because we know that the rate of change is going to be exponential. Is going to be exponential, and the only certainty we have, there's going to be a lot of uncertainty. How do you suggest we navigate that, and what things do you think young people in terms of skill sets should be focusing on from a very young age now?
Yeah, before I answer that, there's a question I'm not sure if it's been asked or we missed it, about how your work is being embraced in Ukraine. And I know a lot of people will want to know about that, especially in terms of positioning and where you hope to take this.
Okay. So first of all, I don't know how that would look like because I'm not yet in Ukraine, but I know that there are a whole lot of things that happen in Ukraine, and that might not be suiting. But so the reason why I choose Ukraine as a school was because Ukraine was inexpensive and the quality of education was better than Nigeria. So that's why I choose Ukraine. So I don't know if my artwork would be would cause issues over there. But I mean, the message has to be there out there. So, well, I hope it's appreciated over there. I hope so.
Okay. My question was same.
No question, and just to touch on that, you're right, Mary. Glad you saw that, because how do people take your work? But I like your response, Chidi. It doesn't matter how people take it; it needs to continue and it needs to get out there. So great response, Mary. What would you advise young people now in terms of the skill sets they should be focusing on to navigate this exponential rate of change?
Yeah. So yeah, the change is coming. The change is here. And like I said, it's going to be big. So the first thing to do, I always say that when you know where you're going and how to get there, it's priceless. Whether it's in your mind and you've written it down, put steps in on how you're going to navigate and achieve it. And again, self-belief is very, very important, because there don't come time when, I know people use the word imposter syndrome a lot, but it's much more than that. There's going to come a time when you may want to actually give up completely for whatever reason. So, but if you know where you are going and how to get there, when you reach the roadblock, you'll be able to reassure yourself and say, I'm doing this for a reason. I'm doing this for a purpose. And my why is right in front of me. And revisit that why from time to time, even as you source support and encouragement. Do not be afraid to ask for support. Do not be afraid to put yourself out there like Chidi has done. And, and like you rightly answered, when you know where you're going, you know what you've got, be focused enough to put it out there, irregardless of whether you'll be discouraged or rejected or anything that is put in front of you. We learn from rising when we fall. So that would be my advice for up and coming, so that they don't think everything will be like bed of roses.
Thank you, Mary, and I agree. It's very important to get yourself out there. It can be an equalizer, because you don't know who's watching, who supports your cause, and who can end up working with you. Chidi, I'd love for you to have the last words. We've had a phenomenal session. We've had people from all around the world commenting, talking about so many issues, and congratulating on what you've done. Next, what are your next steps? What would you like to see? And finally, 3 pieces of advice that you would like to give that you think can help these young people achieve the same levels of success.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you for that. So, okay, thank you for that. So first of all, I'll talk about my next step. So my next step is I'm working on an initiative right now, which will start next year, and I'm also from January next year. I'll be working towards producing a textbook, okay, that is focused on Black people with Black diseases, on children alone. Okay, diseases on children, which will be done on Black skin. So that's my big step from next year, um, in tangent to the initiative, and also. My word to everybody out there and to young people out there is that it's okay to fail. It's okay to have difficult times. It's a normal thing, because what I realize with young people is that they're always too hard on themselves. When things don't go well, when things don't go right, you become too hard on yourself and you say you're not trying hard enough. And it's okay for things to not go well. It's okay for things to always go wrong sometimes. And that's the reason why you have to learn from the mistakes and from the errors that you encounter. So for those who are seeking out to making a difference out there, I would tell you that think out of the box, think on making a difference, think on being that person that you would never have been. Because the fact is this: when you question yourself, when you look at yourself and see the thing that you wish you would have done, and you do an introspection, you be sincere with yourself and you're honest with yourself, and you know that you have to work on yourself, then you make an impact. So to everybody out there who is seeking to make a difference, seeking to make a change, be true to yourself, be real to yourself, and work hard, and work hard. And of course, you're going to fail, and just keep rising and keep doing your best. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we're done with this session. I'm so glad we covered this. You know, to say what you've done, Chidi, is incredible. And I think it's something that people around the world can really look at, not just from the developed countries, but also from the developing countries. We wish you all the success. Look forward to seeing how you grow. And I hope those who are watching, those who are able, do support Chidi's initiative. And Chidi, we're definitely going to be connecting you to people who we feel will definitely support you in your work. Mary, thank you so much. It's been absolute, because by the way, Mary had a meeting and she still jumped on and she hasn't gone home. She said, you know what, I'll stay behind for this live. So thank you so much for
Yeah,
being.
thank you, Wasim. Thanks, Chidi, and thank you, everyone. You've made this really interactive and encouraging. So, and we hope you've learned one or two things from this. It's about connection and it's about working together to make a difference. So, thanks, everyone, and see you, Chidi, at the top.
Absolutely. All right, guys, we're going to bow out. Thank you so much. Good night. Have a wonderful evening, and keep
Thanks.
inspired.
Thank you.